Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Jam and Cheese Show. Unfortunately, Charlie White is not with us today.
Unfortunately,
Cheese.
of course.
It is just me and you. It's been a big week for you. You cleared out your locker and you've got a new home, or am I being a bit premature?
Nah, the locker's. I definitely have a new home, but the locker's not cleared out yet. Might be a bit awkward. I might ask someone else to do it. But yeah, it's been a busy weekend, Jimmy. Busy weekend, busier than it's meant to be.
So, almost officially a South Sydney player.
Yeah, like I'm a bunny now.
Yeah.
That we can confirm. I think we haven't signed the dotted line or anything like that, but all roads we're there pretty much.
What attracts you about the bunnies?
First of all, the coach. He's very attractive in a good way. No, I think it's just I think our personalities are sort of similar and in line. I feel like he taught Craig a lot of the coaching abilities that he has, more so off the field. I feel like I don't know Wayne, but I've had a lot of conversations, obviously, with the Bromwich boys. They're my two of my best mates, and how much they speak highly of him, and that's the main attraction. And then I feel like they've got such a great side as well, on paper and on the field by the looks of the game. And yeah, my favourite team growing up, they're don the red and green like I've been shafted. Don the red and green like the Rams. It used to be there, by the way. It used to be there. Anyways. Yeah, the red and green, and a lot of my close mates all already asking for the Rabbitoh's gear and sending me their sizes through. So hopefully I can get some extra stuff. But just so far, the whole dealing with them at the moment, even the Roosters though, I've got to give the Roosters credit. Like even the Roosters have been really good about it, and Robbo's called me twice and checked in on not how it's going, but how my mental health is going during this process. So I really applaud Robbo for that, and I appreciate him doing that. Because the way it went about, he sort of, like the way it seemed, he sort of was in the dark of how quickly it all came about. So, and then just dealing with the bunnies at the moment, everyone's reached out. I've got so many different numbers coming in, and how, obviously I've been talking a lot on the podcast about it, but how discreetly they've sort of run things. Like when I went to meet them the other day, they took me through back entrances and all stuff like that. So it wasn't really like showing off this new toy or whatever. And that's something I sort of appreciate from them at the time, because the whole place was packed down at Heffron Park. And I got to go through the whole stadium without anyone even noticing.
Yeah, nice. And you're back and available. What are you aiming for?
Well, like on paper, it'd be 6 weeks
from now.
Now, on 6 weeks from Thursday, so that'd be 7.5 months on Thursday, and then it gets to the 9-month threshold. But I think we're going to take things slow. Obviously, bunnies haven't been through the process at all, so when we get our first training session, and then we'll get it. That'll be a more accurate sort of gauge on what my knee's like and my abilities and stuff like that.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a chapter closing there at the Roosters, another chapter in the book of feuds. But how do you sort of reflect on your time at the Roosters? I know you've not been there for that long.
No, it's like I've always said, like I do not regret signing with the Roosters, although we didn't win any premierships and things didn't go according to plan, injuries, then the knee, like. I learned a lot as a footy player at that club, and then they done a lot for me outside of football. So like the club in a whole, they're a great club, and they did a lot of great things for me. Robbo was, the first year there was a feeling out period with me and Robbo, and like because we had such different personalities. That was, and then the second year everything was going so great, and then obviously the injury. But yeah, it's been a journey. I've built some lifetime mates. Victor Radley, comes to mind, Angus Crichton. These people would take their shirt off your back for me, you know what I mean? And I got a lot of time for that. And just the whole organisation is when you're going through something, that club will have your back 100%. And people like Kathy King, Mitch Orbison, Jake Friend, Boyd Cordner, all people around that club, they love that club, and they have the club in mind and the club's best interest in mind. So I wasn't the best interest by the end of it, and that's why I can understand the release. And I wasn't shocked by it. I was shocked by the fact that it come about before I even knew. That was the only thing. I knew that eventually we were going to, because the discussions were being had, I knew eventually it was going to happen, but how quickly it happened. And I thought it might have been after I started playing or something, but it is what it is. And like I said, I got no ill fate towards the club. I just guess how the situation came about was shocking, and I was severely hungover as well from the wedding. So it was an emotional time with the emotions really high at the time. And but now it's sorted. Both clubs have done right by me in the instance. And yeah, I've got nothing I can really say bad about anyone at the club.
That's great to hear. And you know what is even better news, Cheese? The Dogs play the Roosters this weekend on Friday, and you can support the Bulldogs with me, my friend. How good is that? Talk about timing. That is just absolute, like when the stars align, the stars
I'm
just
pretty
align.
sure the same guy backed Raiders last week, didn't he?
No, I said Raiders will be favourites. We'll get into that Bulldogs game a little bit later on, and obviously your new team, South Sydney, with an amazing win. But I want to ask you, there's so many comebacks this week. It had me scratching my head. Now, obviously, when I played, it seemed to be once you establish the lead, very difficult to mount a comeback. Now, obviously, comebacks did happen, but when I finished again, the 6-a-game rule came in, and there was a lot of adjustment, like a lot. It was a shock to the system in terms of, your energy system was built in the preseason to withstand multiple sets of 6 defensively, but usually on your try line. That's what we'd practice for. So you concede a goal line dropout or a knockdown ball. But on your try line, you're not going back as far. And in a strange way, it's easier to defend on try line.
It's always easier to defend on try line.
It is.
That's why and also before that rule come in, whether it's not a penalty to kick, you still went for the short dropout. Like most teams would go for the short dropout before that rule even came about.
Yeah, a lot of teams.
And that's because it is so much easier to defend your line, because you're not running back 10 metres most times. You're only running back 5 metres, and you're able to organise the line. Then if you're close to the line, you've got an extra defender, because teams usually go one marker, and they usually have the fullback in the line. So the line's real thick. That's why you see a lot of the chips over the top and the grubbers through. That's become a massive try-scoring opportunity in this day and age. And you see Penrith, they try it all the time. And it's just because that fullback in the line, there's the biggest weakness is behind the defensive line.
Yeah. I think as well, just going back to that 6-a-game rule coming in, not the receipt, but if you concede a 6 again on the conceding side, you would just sort of paddle and do your best. But when you received one, I think it took a bit of took a couple of years for teams to figure out what to do with that 6 again. I feel as though teams are better prepared now, where it was just 6 again and we just continue the set. I feel as though teams have plans now for when they receive a 6 again, which is adding to where the momentum map of the game. Has it changed that much in such a short period of time? I've been at the game for 4 years now, but am I right in my observations? Obviously, this weekend is a bit of an outlier in terms of some of the comebacks that were mounted, but obviously you've not played this season, but do you get a sense that that's where the game's trending?
Yeah, I can't explain this weekend. It was an unbelievable week for spectators, and especially fans of teams that made the comeback, but I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one thing down. You bring up a good point about the 6 again. teams definitely do practice that sort of stuff. And I think when the 60 game first come about, people didn't really use those tackles up. They sort of just tried to shift the ball even more. But whereas now, teams are going towards the put fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just, we'll go 4 more in the middle and then have our shift. And as a rookie, Jimmy, it's so hard to defend 12 tackles in a row, especially when there's been no break.
And especially going back to 10 metres, tying in from marker.
Exactly.
Like I say, it's better to concede the 60 again on try line.
Yeah.
Because it actually gives you a bit of time to reset.
Yeah.
Where usually those 6 agains that happen in that transition, that middle of the field, it's normally like a half quick ruck anyway.
Yeah, and then once that gets going, like Melbourne are the best at it by far. Once that quick ruck gets going and you get a 6 again, they're just assaulting the middle. And yeah, it's a hard adjustment. I mean, it's easier to defend those the repeat sets from a dropout or something because you get that 30-second break, which is enough. But when you've given away a 6 again on the halfway line, you've got 0 break and you're having to defend 12 tackles and then a chance of another 6 again, 18 tackles. The fatigue all builds up, and I feel like the teams that are doing well are the teams that can handle that fatiguing pressure. And yeah, Dogs do it very well.
they do, and it's interesting, like where people forecast the game to go and the type of athlete that the game looks to produce or that clubs look to recruit. I still think there is still space for that big man that comes on for sort of 15, 20 minutes as a little bit of an outlier, a bit of a surprise. But again, where the momentum is with the game, like you need to be attacking. Like with Nelson yesterday, classic example, came on, Melbourne on the front foot. They stayed on the front foot. I've seen him come on in a game where they've been on the back foot, and it's not
the last
the same.
thing you want to do is put a big man on when you're on your line defending.
Yes, you can see that a goal line dropout make that change. And that's becoming ever more tactical, I think, as well, about when and where you use that big man or that impact hooker. We see a number of teams, revert to sort of 2 dummy halves. Again, that's an important time. You don't want 2 genuine hookers defending in the middle when you're defending your own try line, because then you open yourself up for the quick barge over try. But it's what it's made for is a fantastic product. But the big blowout was the Tigers and the Melbourne Storm. Now, I covered that game for Triple M. The Tigers are a team that's going to attract attention and attract news. Personally, I don't think it's worth panicking over.
Yeah, I think, and as cheesy as this sounds, I think they just got hit by a perfect storm. Like, they were unbelievable. And Ryan Pappenhausen started that all off. Like, maybe he is worth 1.1. Not like what I said. Not like what I said a few years ago. He's staying durable, and he's probably in the top 3 fullbacks in form at the moment. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him over Origin period.
That first try, right foot kick, left foot kick, fingertip control. Now, if you're Benji, you're probably looking at them going, well, Naden should get there. But you're correct in, I feel, though, no worse time to play the Storm after that Golden Point loss. They've twice gone out to big leads at home on Sunday afternoons and not continued the job. They put the queue on the rack. And even if you look at the opening exchanges of that game, the Tigers actually had a few chances that if they pass sticks to Taruva, they score, and it's a different story. But, to concede as many points like that will be disappointing. But for the context of their year, they're 5-5. Yeah. If there's any Tigers fan out there, before a ball was kicked this season, if you offered them that, they're not rolling the dice. No way.
No.
Like, no way.
I think, and back to, I just had a thought, back to like the comebacks. I feel like the Tigers, they got the comeback sort of thing wrong. And when you're down, so every team nowadays is going through the grind. So you're grinding out the first 10 or whatever trying to put fatigue in the game, and then you start playing with the football, you start throwing the football around. And the other games, the comebacks, like Cowboys, for instance, and Bulldogs, they played that grind game at the start of the game, and then when they got down, they started playing that expansive open up football. And the Tigers tried to do that, but their open up expansive football ended up with like 2 runaway tries. And, and they just got that expansive football wrong. Where I think other teams are more, they've probably practiced that a bit more. Like Bulldogs, when the second half was a completely different game style. Like they shifted the ball around, you know what I mean? And they don't usually do that. And the same with Cowboys. They tried to go toe-to-toe with the Giants of the toe-to-toe football. And then when they were down and they needed points, they started playing to their advantage, which is throwing the ball around.
Get shifty. Yeah. And if it comes off,
you're not scared to do it.
Yeah, you've got to be. It's almost like a all or nothing. Yeah, like exactly. And you might get pumped, but you might just come back.
Yeah, you eliminate the fear of stuffing up when you're under points pressure. Like that's what I think a big thing was with this week. Everyone threw the ball around with no fear. And Tigers, they did the same thing, but they had that Nick Meaney run away. They gave up a lot of possession. Yeah. They just got that one wrong.
You know the bizarre thing about that game for Melbourne Storm? No winger scored. They scored 64 points.
They put all the kicks that way.
Coates didn't score a try, and Farlongo didn't score a try.
Did two front rowers scored a try?
Josh
King and Nelson.
And Nelson, yeah.
King's one was a nice with that stretch out.
It was
millimeters off the ground.
He was desperate for that. You could tell you what though, like I know Harry Grant got into the box about Craig Bellamy smiling. King scored, and I thought, he must have got short. Like his face was just.
Nah, he's a humble man, the King dog.
Good on him. Like, probably a few areas that Coach Marshall will want to fix up from a playing side of things, but I think for you don't want to overemphasize what happened in Melbourne. I think, look, it's a reminder about the Tigers, about where they need to get to. But in the context of this season, I think let's just simmer down. But
I would still consider what they're doing right now a very big success.
Have they improved? Like measurably.
Yeah.
Like so much improvement. The thing that comes with the Tigers, though, is they are a team that grabs headlines. So they lose a game like they did, and a post from Jarome Luai's father saying "get out clause activated" is posted to Instagram. Now, is that just a joke, a knee-jerk emotional reaction to lose? Like, oh God, get me out! Like, and you can understand like how his dad might use that as like if you said that in context, you'd be like, if you're at the barbecue or whatever, you're just having your feed, you're watching. I can tell you what, get out clause activated. But to post it on social media, I mean, look.
Yeah, I think he needs to put his page on private because there's a grass out there.
Well, of course, it's always going to make news.
That's always going to make news. And I've had to have so many words to my dad over my career about like stuffy comments back to people. I fucking hate it. But they're your parents and they have your best interest in mind. Like you can't control them.
And look, I think with the Tigers and after an afternoon like that, you know, although they've had a couple of good wins since the Lockie Galvin issue and he was brought back into the team, they're always a quick hit. They're an easy hit. And, you know, with talk of those clauses, and I've heard Jarome speak about how he's team first and how like he'll let his football do the talking, but while they're still in existence, until he activates or deactivates that clause, it's going to come up. It's going to make news.
Yeah, well, I think if the best choice for him is to activate one now. At least 1 year, just activate it. And
saying I'm going to
just sign that.
Yeah, just get rid of it and just move on to next year. I think that would be the smart thing to do. But I mean, he's entitled to have it there. But until he deactivates it,
I know
it's going to be spoken about, and there's no hiding from that.
But I feel like he sort of has to do it with the way he's talking on social media and the way he's talking to the media. And look, he's got every right to do whatever he wants, but if you want everyone off your back about the situation, I feel like that's the only way you can go about it. And if you want to really live by the words you're speaking, that'll really shut a few people up, including us.
Absolutely, it would. There's obviously been a fair bit happening in social media. I saw Mitch Kenny was called out by a fan, and I mean, I think Mitch Kenny responded like, "I'll give me your bank details and I'll send you that $1 trillion. Don't worry about it, mate." I actually like that response from Mitch Kenny. Well done. But Terrell May, friend of yours, he came on the show. What an outstanding young human being he is. He has his vlog, and in the fallout from Magic Round, he's vlogging at the airport, and there's footage of basically Jarome Luai clearly on a video call with what appears to be his family and children, and an autograph hunter comes up and he sort of brushes him away. And there's been an article written about it, about how people are divided over this. I'm sorry, but NRL players are beyond accessible compared to any other sporting code that I know of. Like, if you want a picture with Jarome Luai, get a Tigers membership and go to Members Day, and you'll meet him there.
Yeah.
He would be very accessible, like all the stars of our game are. Went to Magic Round, every single player, every single fan was engaged, everybody got along well. For that, I'm sorry, the issue is with the fan. You've got to know where the boundary is. Rugby league is the most accessible sport that I'm aware of in terms of like genuine everyday fans getting access to the stars. You cannot complain when think about this as not the player, but the person of Jarome Luai is on a personal call. You think he's going to stop that call to take a selfie with you? I mean, what are you even going to... Look, selfies are... And photographs are a strange phenomenon for an adult to ask another grown man for. I mean, I get it. But really, really that man can't, hasn't got the situational awareness to go, I think he might be doing something a bit more important than me getting a photo. Even that, who are you going to show that to? If somebody showed me a photo of, say you met, I don't know, an A-list celebrity, you went, oh, look at that, Jammer, how good's that? The first question I'd ask, what was he like? Yeah, he was good. Like, that guy gets that photo with Jarome, what was he like? Well, I don't know. He was on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
No, I agree. But, yeah, it's a terrible example. Like, you're not going to hand like, you can see in the video kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the fact that they've even put that out there to like try speculate that he's rude mate, there's no chance. If I don't have kids, but if I was on a FaceTime with my cats, I'd brush someone aside. I'd brush some male. I'm on a phone call. That's all I'd do. But you got to think, he's putting his family before a photograph, and people are trying to make it look like he's the bad guy.
And
mate, it's family first always. Well, you know what I mean?
Like, it's just the situational awareness. Like, although you pay your memberships, you watch all the games, like, you got to know that there's a line. And if you actually genuinely wanted a photo, like, that guy's not planned for the Tigers to be at the airport. Yeah, like, it's just a situation that's popped up, and he got plenty of photographs with the other players. All you do is you politely wait. You wait until somebody's finished. Yeah. Like, if you're that desperate, if you're that in awe of Jarome Luai.
Do you know who's desperate? The people that wrote that bloody...
Well, yeah.
Whoever wrote but the headline is desperate.
well, you know what, Cheese? It just speaks to...
The attention.
The attention, but of the club, the Tigers. And obviously, I don't know when this vlog was released, but it's over a week since that video was shot by Terrell May. I don't know when he released it, but still, the Tigers are an easy grab for anyone in the media.
Well, he releases them every week, so if it was Magic Round week, he would have released it after the game.
Yeah,
which means that video has been circulating for.
But timing is
But it's
everything.
It's got the NRL world divided, that one.
I hope it doesn't, because again, I can't speak highly enough of our players and the time that they give. All members, all fans, members' days, magic rounds, being out in the street. It's phenomenal. We're a working class game, a working class sport. Most of us come from very humble beginnings, and we're willing to give our time and attention and stop for photographs, autographs, questions about the game in general. And I think it's poor form for people that disagree. I think you don't have a grip on the reality of what NRL players are like in general. Manly, DCE, since announcing he's moving on, I think they've won 1 from 4 at home. And there was times in yesterday's game where DCE didn't look like he wanted to put his body on the line for a couple of opportunities that came up for the Sharks. I mean,
it's definitely it's definitely playing a role. It's playing a role on that. The DCE signing saga or whatever's going on. It's you can see that it's definitely taken a toll. Even when I went and watched Manly play the Storm, I seen DCA come over to the barrier, and he sort of looked like a defeated man, like, because he's been going through it. But that was pretty fresh. But I don't know what's going on with it all. But they haven't quite been the team but they're still doing that same thing. They play good one week, play bad one week. But now they had that one good win last week, was it? And that basically was Tommy Turbo.
Yeah,
being Tommy Turbo.
For me, sometimes I look at Manly's style of play, and as attractive as it is, I don't know if it's going to get you results all the time. And you spoke about how teams get shifty.
Yeah.
Now
they're fearless from the start.
Well, Olakuatu picks up the football and kicks on play 0 or play 1, and it ends up leading to the Jason Saab break and pops the ball to Kohler. It was a magnificent try. But that sort of play or attitude from your edge back rower, I mean, yes, it came off 100% brilliant, but where are Manly at mentality-wise when they'd not been in the game? It was a breakaway. They didn't look to build anything. And like I say, it came off, but then not long after that, Manly on plays it, get a 6 again on try line. Cherry Evans puts it in behind, and you just go, are they looking for are they looking to score every single time? Which I don't know is a good long-term strategy. Yes, when it comes off, well, obviously, look, they're losing games against the Sharks at home, which Manly would have been favourites, but until DCE Saga, really, it could get worse if he announces the fact that he is going to go to the Roosters, where it is, you speak to people in the know, it seems like a done deal. When you come out and say, I don't even know if I'm going to play next year, and then, well, actually, no, I'm going to sign for the Roosters.
What do you think his best option is in regards to that? Do you announce it, or would you?
Well, I think I think you've got to, Cheese. I think you've got to address the elephant in the room. I really think you do. Because no doubt...
I wonder if it's the Roosters trying to...
I mean...
Because maybe they're trying to sign someone at the club, and if DC signs there...
Yeah, you could be right. Because obviously the acquisition of DCE is going to put some people on notice, or it's going to. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. It's going to affect some people coming out the Roosters.
They've got 2 young,
so
very young halfbacks.
It's definitely going to affect them, especially if he does the 2 years, which personally I think is a risk at that age. Now, age is just a number, but we all know what happens when you get to that age and you start to decline quicker than you can ever imagine.
He's done a great job so far.
He's done an amazing job so far, and obviously, in all likelihood, will be Queensland's number 7, keeping out Tommy Dearden, who was absolutely fantastic again. But for Manly, I think they probably need to put the pressure on DCE.
I don't think he does get it over him. Sorry to.
You think Dearden's in?
I take him. I'm taking him. He's playing too good at the moment.
I reckon if it wasn't for Ben Hunt going down, I think.
I mean, I'd have Cherry in the squad, but
where would you play DCE?
I'd have him
on the bench.
Reserves.
Yeah, in the squad, but I think if they'd have gone, I think Dearden will be 14. Where if Ben Hunt was 14, I think Dearden would have been 7. I think the likelihood increases if that makes sense. I don't know if DC can be a 14.
Nah. Well, he's played 14 for like first 8 years of his Origin career.
Yeah, I mean it's doable, but I don't know. It is an interesting. I mean, I'm just going DCE because
the incumbent.
He's been there for so long, but if you're really picking on form,
and I just think overall he's offering a lot of stuff that DC is not offering at this time in rugby league. Tommy Dearden is a great defender, tough little bastard.
He is,
and he creates great stuff. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And Billy Slater sees that stuff too.
Yeah.
Me and Billy basically have the same brain.
Again, there's no right.
Well, if Bill does give me a call, he usually does. Yeah. I will be suggesting Tommy
Dearden. I think in Manly's best interest is to get the future of DCE. Obviously not at the Manly club, but get that announced and they can look to move on because they're way too good to be where they're at the moment. Talent is not an issue for them. I think there are some game plan and I guess attitude to respect of the ball in general. But again, like we said about the top of the show, Cheese, when you move the ball and it comes off, I mean, you've got Olakau'atu and he's at his devastating best, and you've got the pace of Kohler on one side, and obviously Hopawate and Tommy Turbo. Like, it's brilliant to watch, but there's times when they probably just need to dial it down. I go back to the Bulldogs game last year in like round 25 or 26, and they played the power game through the middle, and they stuck to it, and it seemed to work, and they smoked the Dogs.
Yeah,
they're
a team that when they get the pieces together, they beat anyone.
Yeah, they've got the potential to. Yeah, they really do. But I think it's about that balance of how much shift versus how much through the middle, like knowing when to just dial a shift happy attitude down a little bit, or we need to score every play. There is a bit of there is a sense of that they have a bit of we need to score every time we get the ball. But moving on to our instant classic, the Bulldogs' big comeback win over the Raiders. How good was it? Proudly brought to you by our official sports apparel partner of the Buy Around Podcast, Classic Sportswear. Cheese, we've got some big news coming up soon. Whatever your team, from internationals, NRL, Super Rugby, or the grassroots, sign up to gear up like a pro at classicsports.com.au today. Cheese, it was an insane game.
It was
Saturday afternoon, GAO Stadium in Canberra, packed house, perfect conditions, 1v2.
It was the best game to watch, honestly. I just thought the Bulldogs were done. Like, they were absolutely done. They were getting rolled through, scored on at will, and, you know, that's not what we've come to know about the Bulldogs at the moment. And I don't know what Serraldo done at halftime, what Rocky put up whose ass, but Jesus. And Stephen Crichton, like...
How do you carry the ball?
He looked, like that? You know what it looked like? He looked like he was 20 years old playing under 12s at some point. Like, he looked so tall and, I don't know. But
you're not supposed, like...
But that's what a fucking captain does.
Mate, you know what? It almost like he forgot he was playing NRL. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just having. It looked like he was mucking around.
Yeah.
But it was so, like, the way he carried that ball, the breaks. But you know what's funny? After half time, the Raiders had the ascendancy straight away. There was a run from Papali'i that they just held on, like just held on. And I think for me, it's the message of even though you're under the pump, with the way the game is at the minute, just hang on because your chance is going to come.
Yeah.
Your chance is
Well,
going
that's
to come.
the thing. And once they did find their chance, they did not stop at it. Like they found joy down to Moko's edge, and they channeled that joy.
Yeah. But then they moved to the other edge with kick out and his variability and the ability to assume different roles. Like defending against that, you're always in two minds because you never know what he's going to do. He hits that power line, that unders line. He can skip.
He goes out the back as well.
He does the sweep line, and he's got the hands to execute. So even if you go to jam, because you naturally react late because you're not anticipating the sweep line from kick out. He's got the ability to just the delicate pass, like.
But he's also, if you jam on him, be prepared to prepared. You might not make that tackle.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
And he's got the feet as well.
Yeah.
It was just a mighty comeback, but the Raiders were so good in the first half. And
I think if I'm the Raiders, I'm not too don't overreact. Not too disappointed. Like
just know that you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think the Raiders and Bulldogs play each other again, but that's a game for finals. Like those two teams against each other is made for finals, which will no doubt excite both sets of fans. Like it was a great game.
Geez, the crowd, man. Oh,
yeah.
The Raiders fans are up and about in that first half.
It sounded
it's so good for football.
It is.
Because Canberra's a massive football town. Massive. And then Bulldogs obviously just broke the attendance record for a game.
It was, the comeback from the Dogs was sensational. Like, and led by Crichton and Kickow and a few of their leaders. But like I say, just that determination to hold on, because right after half time, like they could have fell in the hole, and that was a big moment to stop Papali'i.
Well, they fell in the hole last game they lost. They went into against Broncos.
Yeah,
they fell into a hole and like. They try to fight their way out of it by themselves.
Yeah.
I feel like, mate, Crichton led from the front and he showed a perfect example of what a good captain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Magnificent from him. Couple of contentious issues from that game. The Tom Starling no try. Now, I don't know if it was 6-0 or 10-0, but for me, that's a try. Like, I get to the letter of the law that maybe there was a body part on him and it's technically held, but I think that needs to be reviewed. And it's such a rare occasion.
Review all the rules.
It's such a rare occasion, but come on, that's not tackled.
Yeah, I know it's not tackled, but it's the law, and we know the law.
If that happens, if that happens to you,
that's happened to me before.
Has it?
Against the Dogs, Max King was playing for the Dogs. Oh no, against Titans. It's Max King. I hit like a line, and I went through, and someone was holding my foot, but I like kept running.
But your ball carrying arm hit the.
Yeah, so I bounced.
Yeah,
and then when I was on the ground, I got rid of the hand of my foot, and then I just got up and ran like a meter, and then put the ball, and they took it back.
Yeah, look,
I went, obviously that's the rule. I'm stoked about that.
It's funny, like, what is a tackle complete? And I'm still perplexed why when players surrender, you don't just leave them, because voluntary tackle is still a thing. But all you technically need to do is touch them, which, I mean, you're not. I don't know.
Rugby don't have a double movement rule, eh?
No.
I wouldn't mind brushing it.
Brush the double movement.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Oh, geez, you open up a can of worms there. I just think if it's a feather touch, you just need to be allowed to play on. Or it's up to the referee's discretion.
Need downward tackle pressure.
Yeah. Like, what is technical downward pressure? Jamin Salmon scored his try. And
they were down. Eh?
They were still down. It was. I was a bit like, I don't know if you should go off so early. He's actually ended up being injured. I was quite concerned about him leaving the field after doing that. Obviously, the Canberra fans were giving it to him, but I was like, I hope he doesn't have to go down the tunnel, because Ricky Stewart's on the sideline. Obviously, they've got a history. I think last week at Magic Round, there was a video of Ricky Stewart laughing at one of the things that punters said. But then for Salmon to say that, I mean, look, Ricky Stewart said after the game, like, do you think I care about that? I don't think he does. That feud, that disagreement, it's not going to go away. Should Salmon have done it? I mean,
I don't care.
Like, I don't think Ricky Stewart. I think, you know what?
I think it's just become a thing now. Like, it's become a fad because he still gets weak gutted, get it called weak gutted dog. Like, even when I got a lot of time for Salmon. We does love a beer, and we've had a few good nights together. And every random guy will call him a weak gutted dog. Like, I'm not joking. There'd be people who just like, I get cheese yelled out, and he's like, weak gutted dog. Like, people will just yell it out. So obviously it gets instilled into his memory all the time, and he's got to live with that. So he's going and trying to get back as good as he can.
Yeah, for me, it just adds to the theatre. And like I say, those two teams are bound for finals, and we know it's going to come up again, and we know it's going to be emotional again. And
well, Ricky's got, I don't think he cares, but he's got to accept it because it is now, like, Jamin Salmon has got to live with that for the rest of his life. He is now labelled a weak-gutted dog to random people that don't know him.
Like, as far as insults go, like, it's just... It's so funny, you weak-gutted dog. Like you can see, obviously, I don't know much about the history behind it, but you can tell Stuart is fuming. But you're right, like Salmon, I imagine everywhere he goes, he gets it.
It's good.
But, again, credit for the Bulldogs mounting their comeback. They've got some review to do about how they started that game, about how to win back the momentum. Canberra, similarly, I don't think there's too much to stress and worry about. Two big clubs going at each other. They got the win over Melbourne last week. Maybe a little bit fortunate in that sense, but they didn't against the Dogs. But where Canberra are at, they'd be so pleased. And I think at this stage of the season, these two games going up against the other two teams near the top, they'd be pleased with their outcome, their efforts, and their performance. Like,
well, they're sitting second.
Yeah.
Like, no one backed them to be anywhere near there.
I think the Warriors are second now.
Oh, okay. Well, third. They're sitting up there.
Yeah. Hudson Young, what a player. You spoke before about Origin players. He has to be in there.
He will be in there.
He has to be in there. I know they've got some competition with Gus and obviously with Liam Martin and Olakawatu.
Yeah, but that bench spot is his, if not the starting spot.
He has to play. He has been.
He will be picked. I don't know how many tries he scored.
He is so good.
Yeah. He's just
like he is.
He's actually a hungry mongrel dog.
Yeah.
Wants to be in everything.
Yeah. And
just when Canberra needs someone to stand up, he's always there. Like against Melbourne in that extra time, he took those.
Yeah.
He took about 4 carry, and I don't know what he was doing in the middle of the field, but he was just doing. But no, as a player to player, he is one player that you'd want on your side or in your team. Or I sort of envy playing with, like, not playing with him.
Yeah, I think he had a great year last year, great year the year before, but I think he's gone up. He's gone up again. A couple of other players that stood out for me. Hosking, I thought was amazing for Canberra. Yeah. And Bailey Hayward, when he came on, he changed the game. Like, the Bulldogs must be wondering how they get him in the starting team. I think he's the most underrated player in the comp. He'd be likely underpaid, underrated, but his contribution is not lost on Bulldogs fans.
I think you might be right.
Latrell Mitchell, Eric Cantona-esque, the walk-off. What a picture that is. The field goal is still going over.
He put up a video on Instagram. It is the coolest video. I just hope one day I get a video like that.
How do you remain so calm?
Well, that's not the old Trail. The old Trail would go over to the sidelines and yell at, mate. I remember he'd done that against us. Roosters were up 20-0 against Melbourne, and we come back to 20-all. And Latrell Mitchell kicked one from 45. And I was on the bench at the time when he kicked it, and he walked over and stood on the sideline and just went, to all us on the bench. Yeah. I was like, holy, that's a man right there.
I reckon it was way more gangster to walk off.
Yeah.
Like, well, what were you expecting? Eric Cantona for Man United scored like a chip goal, and he just he goes in. Before he goes in, turns around like, what were you expecting? Like that image of Latrell kicking the field goal, his teammates overcome with joy and ecstasy in the rain, and just walking off as if like, well,
the video is like he kicks it and then he turns around and goes slow mo, and then like all the boys jump on him and he's just got a straight face.
It was sensational. Like, you've got to give credit to South. It was interesting to see Wayne Bennett before the game move Jarome and Keon Koloamatangi into the middle. I thought they were Keon was like off the charts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, his days on an edge are done. Like, he played that well.
What did he have? 26 carries.
He was insane. Jarome probably played the best game in a long time for him as well. What he made of the Broncos, Cheese, because 14-0 up, and again, look, we give credit to South Sydney, but South's lost 4 in a row. Very undermanned. They go in 14-0 at halftime. The Broncos in absolute cruise control.
And it's not like they don't have game winners. Like, they've got people that can shut games out, like Reynolds.
Yeah, game manager.
Yeah, they have game managers. I think they're in a rocks and diamonds sort of season. I can't really put my finger on what it is. Obviously, they're missing Reece Walsh.
Do you reckon they are, though?
Oh, I think they are.
Do you reckon he solves much of the issues?
I don't think it solves.
Because I don't think it's a talent thing that they're missing, which he obviously has.
Yeah, but he's the main player in a main position.
Yeah, true.
And Sal and Cobbo then can't be on the wing.
Yeah, there's a knock-on effect.
But also, mate, they should have won. They unfortunately come across the Greg Inglis version of Latrell Mitchell. That try-saving tackle on Dean Mariner was...
the one on Payne Haas.
There's no way Latrell's faster than Dean Mariner.
No, that was an excellent tackle. But for me, I think what Brisbane will be annoyed about is Havili at 3 minutes into the second half just going over for a barge over. Like, lads, come on. Like,
he is a big boy.
Yeah, he is cheese. But when you think of the conditions and the lack of like creative halves and positions that Souths are struggling in, like Havili's there, he's only doing one thing. Like, for me, that was really poor. And Brisbane will come under the spotlight naturally because Maguire came in to give them that hard edge, and they don't have it. It's as simple as that. And they can't recruit their way out of this because they've already signed Grant Anderson for next season. They've got Reynolds off contract. You've got Staggs off contract. You've got Cobbo off contract. There's no room to maneuver and bring in, I guess, characters that would know what Maguire's trying to instill. Like, you can't recruit your way out. So you've either got to change your mentality of what type of style you want to play or what you'd be known for, or you work on changing those individuals. But
I don't think they I don't think they'll be able to re-sign two of those three players. Sal and Cobbo is going to be, the way he's playing at fullback, he's going to be $1 million player. And then you've got Katoni Staggs. He's wants more than 600, 700.
Well, they're saying Staggs is done, but if it is, then I probably understand why Brisbane don't announce it, because I think it means the end for Cobbo if they do. That's probably why. In fact, no, it is why. It is, but maybe that's lingering over them. But at 10 rounds in last year, they were 6-4. 10 rounds in this year, they're 5-5. And it was around about this time last year that the wheels fell off.
Yeah.
And there's games that are a repeat of last year, and obviously Kevy was moved on, Madge was brought in. So is this a case of Madge needs to change his style to suit the people at the Broncos and the team at the Broncos, and maybe just dial it back a bit? Because I think you and I both know he's an intense coach. Me through secondhand information, but obviously playing against his teams. You through the New Zealand Kiwi teams. He's very intense, and like it's well known what he's like.
Yeah.
But does he with the team that he's got?
Well, my only really opinion on that is the best coaches are the smart ones or the ones that can people manage. And I feel like Craig Bellamy is why he's so great is he people manages. And that's probably why Wayne Bennett, I don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure he people manages.
It is.
And it's about this is what you like. I'm going to make you happy. And, mate, I don't think Madge knows how to do that very well because he's like, the way he is, he's very, but this is what you like, so I'm going to let you do what you like. And then that's where your best footy comes. Instead of forcing your opinion on a player that is better than you, you know what I mean? It's like, you can't coach some of these players. Like, you can't coach Reece Walsh to be a better, like, to play a different style. It don't work. Like, you've just got to coach his style into him and let it flourish.
I think as well, you've got to develop a strong relationship with your leaders, and not just the field leaders, but the dressing room leaders, and knowing what they're about. And I make no, like, I'm not accurately across how those Brisbane players like present themselves and what they're about, but they certainly give a perception of they like to be stars, like Reece Walsh with his, and that's not a criticism. That is who he is. So maybe Maguire needs to adapt to the situation, because
here's another one.
But he's got two ways to go. He keeps doing what he's doing, and that hard note, like his disciplinarian style and strict style, or he changes. But and
I'm just saying, you give someone like Cameron Munster the disciplinary style of coaching, he is not going to flourish. He's going to go into a shell. And I feel like some players at Broncos may be feeling that pressure. They feel pressured. I don't know for sure, but that's what I get out of it.
And some people might be sitting there going, well, hang on, Jamie, you said he needs to pull back, but you want them to be a harder team to beat and have more, and because the word on the street is they've got a soft underbelly. You put pressure to them. Now, how do you develop that? Well, some people go, well, you need that hard-nosed training. But and you go, yeah, to an extent you do, but you also need people that actually want to be there. Sorry, not want to be there, but will care for the cause enough. Because that's what it comes down to. Every team trains hard.
You got to find you got to find what your underbelly is and make them harder. Like, it's not like Reece Walsh. Respectfully, he does fuck all for the defensive line, other than communicating where they go. But if you're defending, he's not going to help you, and he doesn't need to be tough. You know what I mean? You need those people in the middle to be tough. And Carrigan is he knows exactly what he's doing. But I feel like you just need to free up a bit of your other players that probably they don't need leashes on them.
Well, you need to generate buy-in. You need to generate.
What about what's his name? Ezra Mam. What are we thinking there?
I think
he's got to be in.
With Ben Hunt going down with that hamstring injury, he has to come back in.
Yeah.
Like it for me, it's not.
I think that helps the team a bit. He's a great player.
He's a great player, but I don't know how much he helps their defensive side of things and their attitude to things. But it's Madge has got a big decision on his hand. Does he change his style and his attitude? And even he had a big club at the South in Souths that everything that they did got amplified, and that was over a decade ago. Social media's snowballed since then. General media stories have blown up since then. You've got Reece doing Reece Walsh TV on YouTube, which, like, can Maguire, maybe he's got to let go of the fact he can't control everything. Now, I know there's different ways to get there because and there's different situations that you're in. So I know Cam Serraldo at the Bulldogs in his first year there, he was like, this is our environment. This is how we're going to play. And he figured out who wanted to be there and who didn't. And then there was a pathway, but it was a recruitment out of it, getting those right people in to play this style of play. But with Maguire, he can't change his roster. So Cam Seralda had the ability to change his roster, so he stuck to his guns, implemented some things, decided who was there and who wasn't, and then they made that change. But with Maguire, he can't recruit his way out of this. He can't change the roster. So unless those players buy into it, he
doesn't need to either.
Well, I know he doesn't need to, Cheese, but unless he gets those players to buy in to what methods are doing, and I know they did that boat cruise and that's blown up, and it's like, so what? But rumblings of players being unhappy. So if this is coming out of the camp, then maybe he needs to look and go, I've got a very talented bunch of players here. My style has worked in the past, but the reality of the situation is I might need to just change who I am and what I'm about and what I stand for and my disciplinarian and the intensity that I train at, because...
Yeah. I agree. I think what he needs to do is ring up Kevy Walters. And I know that's a bold thing, but Kevy Walters knew... Like, that's a massive change from Kevy Walters, who's a larrikin, nice guy, to Madge Maguire. That's a huge change in team. Yeah. So obviously there's going to be some people that take that change weird or take that change different, and they're going to be unhappy about it because they're used to this thing and they've just been brought this whole new thing. But I think, and Kevy loves the Broncos, I think if you gave him a call, it might help the situation. You might be able
to say how...
Not just ask about what players, what he thought of this and how his players, how they reacted to this. Just get an insight on the players you're coaching from a person that's coached them for 5 years.
It's not a bad shout, that, Chiefs. I wonder if Kevy would pick up.
I think he loves the Broncos enough to want them to succeed.
I think you're probably right. One of the clubs that he was linked with, Kevy Walters, the Gold Coast Titans, they went up to came down to Newcastle and were 20 points down. And it looked like Phil Sami scored a consolation try just before halftime. That's what I took it as being. But then Newcastle just fell into a hole. Big shout out to Tino Fatumala'awe for his performance. Like, what a leader. He said he did it for the players, the club, and importantly, Des. Like,
I got goosebumps.
I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make in the context of the season for the Titans, but what a win.
Yeah. It's I can't believe this round, but I can't believe I shouldn't say it, but Newcastle in the second half, they were putrid.
They were.
So
I honestly, I think Newcastle are done for this year. I think that game, had they won that, they've got Parramatta this week, and that they'll likely win that game. But for me, if they'd have won against the Titans, won against the Newcastle, and then go on a bit of a run, who knows? But I just can't see how, after beating South in Magic Round, coming back home to the Titans that were there for the taking, being 20 points up, losing that game, I think they're done.
Yeah, I agree with you. Humbly agree with you.
I think they are done for the year. The Warriors, a surprise package, finishing the round up in second position. According to the rundown, so I'm going to trust Charlie White is correct, and he's read the ladder. A bit of a scrappy game down in the Gong. 3 tries to 2 in favour of the Dragons. The Dragons had an opportunity to try and nail a field goal. Holmes, I think, from memory, missed one, and then they botched the opportunity and they shifted, and it was like, what are you doing? But the Warriors, they just keep scrapping and finding a way with still some star players out.
Yeah, it's good to see the Warriors going good again, up the wires. But yeah, it was a scrappy game. Like, well, I don't know if you'd be too happy with that win. Like, you were outscored. But I feel like there's a lot of Bulldogs-ish from last year to the Warriors. They just find a way to win games. Yeah. At the moment, they're winning the games they need to. Like, a lot of teams this year are struggling to win games that they should be winning, whereas the Warriors are doing that really well. And Luke Metcalf is just...
What a player.
He's starting to really come out of his shell now. You see, actually, I don't know if you know anything about basketball, but did you see a couple of weeks ago?
No.
When Luke Metcalf kicked that goal, that 50-meter goal.
Yeah.
He got reshared by an NBA player.
Oh, really?
Damian Lillard. Did you see that, Tones? No, Damian Lillard shared it on a story. And it was like, him doing the Dame time, which is
nice.
That's massive. But anyways, what a player.
The Warriors, like you say, they're just picking up nice little wins, sneaking under the radar. Because, like you say, there is a lot of teams that are on that 4-4, 5-5, 4-5 record, 4-6. Like there's a big logjam in the middle, but the Warriors likely not too affected by Origin. Probably Mitch Barnett would be the only player they lose. So they're in such a strong position. A big shock and credit to them for what they're building down there. The first draw in a long time.
A long time.
Mate, you know what really annoyed me about this? You know the sleepers in the ruck? That, so if you 3-man tackle, Liam Martin lay down, right?
Yeah, he's got his head in the way.
And then Reece Robson couldn't get the ball to the kicker.
Yeah.
So for me now...
And now they've punished... If you pass
it into...
It's punishable.
Yeah, it's punishable. They need to get rid of that rule. If you can't get back into marker...
6 again at least.
And you're stuck there, exactly. It should be a 6 again because I reckon teams now would tactically look to do that. The setup play for the field goal, make sure it's a 3-man tackle. If you're on legs, just lay there. Lay on the ground. You're in the way. You disrupt where the dummy half stands and they disrupt that pass. Like, that's the way to do it.
You know, now I've actually seen how you do it now, how you trick the ref. Instead of passing the ball into them, you just pass a shocking pass. And the ref will be like, mate, you affected the pass.
Yeah. But, mate, it's deciding games.
That was a bad one. That was like golden.
I hate the fact that, look, when teams bought it in because it was better to be out of the ruck than trying to get back on side. And then Cam Smith started to pass the ball deliberately in to those players, and it was kind of, it's not.
I remember he used to take the piss out of it. The guy would be lying down on the ground. You throw it on a downward angle.
Yeah. So I reckon if that happens, but let's exercise some common sense.
Yeah.
Like if the player's in the ruck and they're genuinely interfering, which they are a lot of the time, penalise them. If they're not, then don't.
Yeah, I think
then you can't forcefully pass the ball. But if it's in a natural motion, if they're interfering in the ruck, by definition, it's an interference penalty.
Yeah.
And even where Liam Martin was, Reece Robson couldn't get his feet in the right position. So it's an interfering penalty.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's a lot to...
Well, if you saw it and I saw it, then everyone else bloody saw it.
Yeah. I know there's a lot to pour over.
That means the ref would have seen it.
Yeah. But they won't blow a penalty because they've not been an interference penalty for a couple of years now. And I know there's a lot to decipher from that game in terms of, like,
there was some shot and drop goals in the
and there's some non-penalties that I guess you'd look at and say, there's a couple of potential offsides there, but that's what happens in Golden Point. And, the referees, unfortunately, don't have the bottle to call offside and give a penalty because they know it's game defining. And I certainly don't want the bunker intervening. Like, less.
Yeah, you can't have no problem with the high tackle. That last week's one, oh my fucking God.
Well, mate, how good was it, Cheese? You know what? We talked about the quality of the game. No sin bins this week. 0.
Didn't know that.
0. And we had, 18 a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, well, so come back in 2 weeks.
There's,
in 2 weeks it'll be 8.
Figure that one out. The Panthers now, 1 point is better than no points, but in the context of their season, like, this could, I don't know. I know, mate.
That's what you're doing.
I know. You just can't.
You can't rule them out.
Rule them out
Jesus, it's going to take a mammoth effort to get back.
Me and Charlie, I don't know if you were on the show, but me and Charlie were saying, like, I reckon they should have to play finals.
Yeah,
they should make.
I was on that one.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite there. I was on the show, but I was present, but I wasn't.
Present. I think they just have to play finals. Like, they can't just not make it. They've got to be beaten. They've got to be knocked out of the competition. They can't just, when people look back in years to come, what happened to that dynasty team of the Panthers? Like, who beat them? Oh no, they just didn't make playoffs that year. It's like, that's bullshit. They have to make finals. They have to play finals. They should be.
Well, yeah,
it should be.
It's so bad that when I look back at my my career when I'm done, I'm going to be like, I've played in the Panthers, Panthers, what do you call it, dynasty. Like I was part of that. Like that's how they've just stained my whole. They've stained my whole career. It's like, oh, how was your era? Oh, it was called the Panthers era.
Yeah, yeah. Someone's got to knock them out. They can't just beat themselves, as you say. But it was a great round of football. Jeez, thanks for coming in. We will catch you next week. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, guys.